A child whispered into the phone at dawn. "Mommy said not to wake you, but I think something's wrong." And the man who answered realized sleep was a luxury he'd never earn back.
Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe.
The city was still holding its breath. That thin moment before sunrise, when the sky was neither night nor morning, when streetlights still burned, but birds had begun to stir, was Marcus Leone's least favorite hour. It was when ghosts slipped through cracks, when memories had a way of finding you. His phone vibrated once on the nightstand. Not a ring, not an alert.
A vibration.
Marcus opened his eyes instantly. Years in his world trained a man to wake without hesitation. He reached for the phone, already scanning the dark room, senses sharp, pulse steady. The call wasn't from any of his men. No encrypted number, no emergency code. It was an unknown number. He frowned and answered anyway. "Speak." Silence. Not dead air. Breathing. Tiny. Uneven. Like someone trying very hard not to cry. Marcus sat up slowly.
"Hello?"
he said again, lower now. Controlled. A whisper came through the speaker. So soft he almost thought he imagined it. "Mister, I'm sorry." His jaw tightened. "Who is this?" Another pause. A sniffle, quickly swallowed. I borrowed the phone. Mommy said not to wake you. She said grown-ups get mad when they're tired." Marcus closed his eyes. This was wrong. Every instinct he had screamed it. "Who is your mother?" he asked carefully. "And where are you calling from?" "I'm outside," the child whispered. "It's still dark. The lady with the phone is buying coffee. She said I could use it real quick." Outside. Alone. Marcus swung his legs over the side of the bed. "How old are you?" he asked. "I'm 6, I think. Mommy says I'm 6.5, but that halves don't really count." Something twisted in his chest. "What's your name?" Eli. The way he said it, quiet, polite, practiced, told Marcus this wasn't a child who made trouble. This was a child who avoided it. "Eli," Marcus said, softer now. "Why are you scared?" There was a long pause. So long, Marcus thought the call had dropped. Then the whisper came again, trembling. "Mommy's still sleeping." Marcus stood. "What do you mean?" "She told me to be quiet and watch cartoons," Eli said. "But the TV's broken, and she didn't wake up when the sun tried to come." Marcus was already walking, pulling on clothes, mind racing. "Did you try to wake her?" he asked. "Yes," Eli said quickly, "but not loud. She said not to wake you loud unless it's really bad." "And is it really bad, Eli?" Another sniffle. "I think so." Marcus closed his eyes briefly, jaw locking. "Where is your father?" "He doesn't live with us anymore," Eli said. "Mommy said that's safer." Safer. Marcus's hand stilled on the door handle. "Eli," he said, voice steady but urgent now. "I need you to listen to me very carefully, okay?" "Yes, sir." "Is your mommy breathing?" Silence. Then a tiny, terrified inhale. "I don't know," Eli whispered. "She's not moving. I put my ear on her chest like in the movies, but it was really quiet." Marcus felt the rules he lived by begin to fracture. He was not a good man. He didn't get involved. He didn't take calls like this. He didn't let children into his world. But a child had found his number, and children didn't call him by accident. "Eli," he said, already opening his door, already stepping into the hallway. "You did the right thing. I need you to stay on the phone with me." "Okay." "Where are you right now?"
"On the steps outside the big glass store. The one with donuts."
Marcus was moving now, speaking into his phone as another device in his hand lit up. Location tracing, calls going out silently. "Good," he said. "Stay where you are. Don't go back inside alone. The lady will come back, okay?"
"I think she's coming now."
A muffled adult voice in the background. Concerned. Confused. Eli, the woman said. Sweetheart, is everything okay?
Yes, Eli whispered into the phone. I think so. The man is helping.
Marcus swallowed. Eli, he said, you can tell her your mommy is sick, that you need help. The child hesitated. Will she be mad?
No, Marcus said firmly. She will help you. And so will I.
Another pause. Then, quietly, okay. The phone shifted. Adult voices rose. Shock. Urgency. Marcus stood in the dawn-lit street below his building, the city finally exhaling as sirens began to wake somewhere far away. He stayed on the line, because when a child whispered, "Mommy said not to wake you, but I'm scared." You didn't hang up. You broke every rule you had. And you answered. Marcus Leone had ended thousands of calls in his life without a second thought. Orders given. Threats delivered. Lives altered with a sentence. When a call was finished, it stayed finished. That was how he survived in a world where hesitation got people killed. This call did not end. The line stayed open as the stranger with the coffee cup crouched in front of Eli, her voice hushed but urgent. Marcus listened to everything: the scrape of shoes on concrete, the hiss of an espresso machine behind glass, the tremor in the woman's breath when she realized this wasn't a lost child with a scraped knee. It was worse. Marcus leaned against his car, dawn painting the sky in thin, bruised colors. His men were already moving without being told. A location blinked onto his screen, pulled from triangulation and instinct. Then Eli spoke again, quieter now, as if afraid to be overheard. "Mister?" "I'm here," Marcus said instantly. The child hesitated. Marcus could hear the effort it took, choosing words carefully, the way children do when they're used to being corrected. "You sound tired," Eli said. "Mommy says tired people shouldn't be woken up unless they're important." Marcus almost smiled. Almost. "You did the right thing," he said. "I want you to keep talking to me, okay?" "Okay." Another pause. Then, "Marcus?" The world stopped. Marcus straightened slowly. The city noise fell away, replaced by a cold, precise silence that lived only inside him. He had not given his name. Not once. Not even accidentally. And no one in his world used it without permission. "What did you say?" he asked. "Marcus," Eli repeated, uncertain now. "Did I say it wrong?" The woman's voice broke in, confused. "Sweetie, who are you talking to?" Marcus raised a hand instinctively, as if she could see it through the phone. "Eli," he said calmly, though every muscle in his body had gone rigid. "Who told you that name?" "My mommy," Eli said. "She said if I ever got really scared, and she wasn't waking up, I should call Marcus Leone." Marcus closed his eyes. That name, his full name, was not spoken lightly. It was not written down. It was not passed around. People whispered it like a curse, like a warning. And mothers did not teach it to their children unless desperation had already carved its way into their bones. "How does she know me?" Marcus asked. "I don't know," Eli admitted. "She just said you help people when they don't have anywhere else to go. But you don't like being bothered." Something cracked. Not loudly, not all at once. "But enough." Marcus turned his face toward the paling sky, breath slow, controlled. A woman who knew his name, who trusted him with a child's last instruction, who believed, somehow, that he would answer, that he would care. "Eli," Marcus said, "how long has your mommy been sleeping?" "I don't know," the child whispered. "I fell asleep too. When I woke up, it was still dark, and she didn't make pancakes like she said." The woman with the phone made a small sound of distress. Marcus's voice sharpened, precise now. "Can you ask the lady if she's calling an ambulance?" "Yes." A shuffle. "She is," Eli said after a moment. "She looks scared." "That's okay," Marcus said. "She should be." He stepped into his car. "Eli," he continued, softer again, "I need you to stay where you are. Help is coming for your mommy." And I'm coming too.
You are?
Yes.
The child's breath hitched. You promised not to be mad.
I'm not mad, Marcus said. I'm awake now. Another pause. Marcus? Eli asked quietly.
Yes.
Mommy said you don't break rules.
Marcus started the engine.
She was wrong, he said.
As the car pulled into the waking city, Marcus Leone understood one thing with brutal clarity. A woman had trusted him with her child's safety without ever asking him to promise.
And a child had spoken his name like it meant protection. Whatever rules had kept him alive until now,
they no longer mattered. The ambulance sirens were closer now. Marcus could hear them through the phone, distant but growing, weaving through the early morning traffic like a promise that help was finally catching up. Still, he kept his voice steady, low, something Eli could hold on to. Eli, he said, I need you to tell me exactly what happened this morning. Start from when you woke up. The child hesitated, breath shallow. I woke up because it was too quiet, Eli whispered. Marcus tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Too quiet how?
Mommy's house always makes noises, Eli said. The fridge hums, the pipes knock. Mommy hums when she's tired. But this morning, it was like the house was holding its breath.
That image landed hard.
And Mommy?
Marcus asked.
She was still in bed, Eli continued. I tried to be quiet like she said. I climbed up real careful. I said her name.
His voice dropped even lower.
She didn't say 5 more minutes.
Marcus closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, refocusing on the road. Did you touch her?
Yes, Eli said.
I shook her shoulder a little. Not hard. She didn't wake up. The woman beside Eli. Marcus could hear her now, whispering urgently to someone else, probably emergency services, made a soft, broken sound. Marcus leaned forward in his seat. Did your mommy feel warm or cold? He asked.
Cold, Eli said immediately. Not freezer cold, just colder than me.
Marcus exhaled slowly through his nose. And your daddy? He asked, though something in his chest already knew the answer. He's not home, Eli said. He doesn't come home much anymore. Mommy says that's good. Do you know where he is?
No.
A pause. He gets loud when he's home, Eli added carefully. Mommy says I'm brave when I don't cry. Marcus's jaw clenched.
How long have you been alone this morning? He asked.
I waited a long time, Eli said. I watched the sun try to wake up Mommy. When it didn't work, I remembered what she said. What did she say? Marcus asked. If something bad happens and she doesn't wake up, Eli whispered, I should find a grown-up phone and call you. Marcus swallowed. Did she tell you why? No, Eli said. She just said, if I can't answer, Marcus will. The name sounded different when Eli said it, not whispered like fear, not spoken like power, spoken like hope. The ambulance sirens cut sharply closer now.
Eli, Marcus said, you did exactly what she asked. You didn't do anything wrong.
I know, Eli said quietly, but I think she's been sleeping too long. The words broke something open in Marcus's chest. You're right, he said gently, and help is almost there. The woman's voice cut in, louder now, shaking. Sir, they're asking questions. They want to know where the mother is. Tell them the address, Marcus said instantly. And tell them the child did the right thing. There was movement, doors opening, someone running. Eli's breathing sped up. They're going inside, he whispered. They're opening Mommy's door. Marcus pulled his car hard to the curb, hazards flashing, hands steady despite the storm inside him.
Listen to me, he said. No matter what happens next, you are not alone. Do you understand?
Yes, Eli said, but his voice wobbled. You are brave, Marcus continued. Not because you didn't cry, but because you spoke up. The line filled with adult voices now. Instructions, commands. A stretcher rolling. The soft, terrifying word, unresponsive, floated through the air like a shadow.
Eli gasped.
"They're lifting her," he whispered. "She looks sleepy. I don't like it."
Marcus's voice dropped, calm and immovable. "They're helping her," he said, "and I'm on my way." "Promise?" Eli asked. Marcus didn't hesitate.
"I promise."
As he pulled back into traffic, city fully awake now, Marcus understood something with brutal clarity. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a mother who had known she might not wake up, and a child who had been taught exactly one name to trust when the world went quiet in the worst possible way. And Marcus Leone was about to find out why. Marcus Leone had rules carved into him the way scars lived under skin. Never trace a call while you're still on the line. Never move without confirmation. Never let emotion decide speed. Never involve yourself personally. Those rules had kept him alive. He broke them all before the ambulance doors even closed. The call stayed open in his ear, Eli's breathing a thin thread he refused to cut, while Marcus tapped commands into a second device mounted beside the steering wheel. The system responded instantly, silent and obedient, pulling data that should have taken hours to access. Cell tower triangulation, GPS drift, Wi-Fi pings bleeding through thin apartment walls.
"Eli," Marcus said, keeping his voice calm. "Are you still outside?"
"Yes," the boy whispered. "The lady said I shouldn't go back in yet."
"That's good," Marcus said. "Stay with her."
The word yet lodged in his chest. The map sharpened. A dot blinked into clarity. A crumbling 6-story walk-up on the east side. The kind of building developers ignored and landlords forgot. Windows patched with cardboard. Fire escapes rusted into useless ladders. The kind of place where silence wasn't peace, it was neglect. Marcus's jaw tightened. An apartment no child should ever be alone in.
"Eli," he asked, "what floor do you live on?"
"The third," the boy said. "The stairs squeak a lot. Mommy says to skip the third step from the bottom." Marcus closed his eyes briefly. He could see it now. Narrow hallways, thin walls, doors that didn't lock right. A kitchen light left on all night because darkness made things worse.
"How long have you lived there?"
Marcus asked. "All my life," Eli said, "except when Daddy took me to his friend's house for a while." "When was that?"
Another pause.
"Before Mommy got sick." The word sick hit wrong. Marcus glanced at the time. Still before 7. Still early enough that the city hadn't fully noticed this child yet. "Eli," he said carefully, "did your mommy tell you not to answer the door?" "Yes," Eli said quickly. "She said only nice people knock. Daddy doesn't knock." Marcus's grip tightened on the wheel. The map zoomed again. He overlaid police response times, hospital proximity, known disturbances in the building. Too many. "Eli," he said, "I'm going to ask you something important. I need you to tell me the truth, okay?" "Yes, sir." "Has anyone else been in your apartment since your mommy went to sleep?" "No," Eli said. "I locked the door like she showed me. I used the chair, too." Marcus inhaled sharply.
"How did you get out?"
"The window," Eli said softly. "Mommy says it's okay if I'm scared. She said if she's sleeping too long, I should leave." A mother who planned for the worst. Marcus stayed silent for a moment too long. "Mister," Eli whispered, "did I do it wrong?" "No," Marcus said immediately. "You did everything right." His system chimed quietly. A second dot appeared. Movement. Someone else in the building. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He broke another rule. He opened a secure line. "Get a team moving," he said quietly. "No lights, no noise. 3rd floor walk-up on East 17th. Child involved." A pause, then, "Understood." He ended the call but kept Eli on the line. "Eli," he said, "are you feeling cold?" "A little." "Stay close to the lady with the phone," Marcus instructed. "If anyone you don't know comes near you, you tell her right away."
"Okay."
Marcus's car turned sharply, tires biting into the street as the building loomed closer with every block. An apartment where fear had learned to live quietly. A child who knew how to lock doors and climb out windows. A mother who taught him exactly one name to call when the rules stopped working. Marcus Leone felt something unfamiliar settle into his bones. Not rage. Responsibility. And as the building finally came into view, peeling paint catching the early light, he understood the truth with brutal clarity. Rules were for ordinary nights. This was not one of them. Marcus Leone arrived without sirens, without spectacle. His car slid to the curb like it belonged there, engine cutting off while the street was still pretending nothing was wrong. Dawn had finally broken, pale and uncertain, illuminating the building in a way that made it look even more tired than it probably was. Paint peeled in long strips. One window was boarded up with warped plywood. Another was cracked and taped like someone had tried, and failed, to keep the world out. Marcus stepped out and immediately knew. This wasn't just a place where people lived poorly. This was a place where people learned how to endure. He didn't rush. He never rushed. But his body moved with a quiet urgency, the kind that didn't waste motion. Two of his men appeared from nowhere, positioning themselves without a word. The ambulance was already gone. So was the woman with the coffee. Only the building remained.
And the door.
Marcus climbed the stairs slowly, boots silent against concrete worn smooth by decades of footsteps. 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like old water, cheap detergent, and something sour underneath it all. Fear, if it had a scent, would have lived here comfortably. He stopped in front of apartment 3B. The door was scarred, not just old, damaged. Deep gouges near the lock, a dent at shoulder height, the kind of marks that didn't come from moving furniture or clumsy neighbors. Marcus crouched, studying the lock. Locked from the inside. A chair had been jammed beneath the handle, hard enough to leave grooves in the wood. A child's defense. His jaw tightened. He pushed the door open carefully. It creaked, loud in the narrow hall, like it was protesting being asked to remember. Inside, the apartment was quiet in a way that felt wrong. Not peaceful. Abandoned. Marcus stepped in. The living room was small, cluttered but not filthy. Toys were lined up neatly against one wall, as if someone had tried to keep order with limited tools. A thin blanket lay folded on the couch. The television sat dark, unplugged. The kitchen told a harder story. An empty fridge except for milk long past its date. Cabinets with mismatched doors. A sink stacked with dishes that hadn't been washed in days, not from laziness, but exhaustion. Marcus moved toward the bedroom. The door frame was splintered. Inside the bed was unmade, sheets twisted, one pillow on the floor. A woman's phone lay cracked near the nightstand. On the dresser, an envelope marked Final Notice peeked out from under a stack of unopened mail. Marcus didn't touch anything. He didn't need to, he already saw it. A bruise on the wall where someone had hit hard enough to leave a mark. Fingernail scratches near the light switch. A lamp knocked over and never set upright again. And then, the bathroom. The door was ajar. Marcus pushed it open. Blood.
Not a pool. Not dramatic. Just enough to tell the truth.
A smear along the edge of the sink. A rust-colored trail on the tile, hastily wiped but never erased. A towel stuffed into the trash, heavy and stiff with dried red. Marcus closed his eyes. This wasn't sudden illness. This wasn't fate. This was survival stretched too thin. One of his men appeared in the doorway. Boss. Marcus didn't turn. Talk. The hospital confirmed, the man said quietly. Internal bleeding. She waited too long to come in. Marcus's voice was low. Cause? Another pause. Blunt force trauma. Old and new. The word reckoning settled into the room. Marcus turned slowly, eyes cold now, dangerous in their stillness. Father? He asked. Name matches prior complaints, the man said. Nothing that stuck, no convictions. He disappears when things heat up. Marcus nodded once. A man who hit and vanished. A system that filed papers and moved on. A mother who taught her child how to block doors and climb out windows. This wasn't a rescue anymore. This was a debt. Marcus walked back into the living room and knelt, picking up a piece of paper taped crookedly to the wall near the door. A child's drawing, crayon stick figures, one tall, one small. Above them, written in uneven letters. "Stay quiet. Be brave." Marcus stared at it for a long moment. Then he stood. "Find him," he said, quietly. The man nodded and vanished. Marcus stepped back into the hallway, the door to 3B left open behind him like an accusation. Somewhere in the city, a child waited. And somewhere else, a man who thought he'd gotten away with it was about to learn the difference between hiding and being spared. The rescue was over. The reckoning had just begun. The hospital room was too bright for the kind of truths that lived there. White walls, white sheets, machines humming softly like they were afraid to intrude. The blinds were half open, letting in a thin slice of late afternoon light that rested across the woman's face. She looked smaller than Marcus expected. Fragile in a way that had nothing to do with weakness, and everything to do with how long she had been holding herself together with sheer will. Her eyes fluttered open slowly. Confusion came first, then fear. Her gaze darted to the door, to the corners of the room, to the space beside the bed where a plastic chair sat empty. Her breathing quickened, shallow and panicked, until she saw Marcus standing near the window. He didn't move toward her, didn't crowd her, just stood there, tall and still, hands loose at his sides. "You're safe," he said quietly. Her lips parted, but no sound came out at first. Then, hoarse and raw, "Where is my son?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "He's sleeping, with people watching him who won't leave." Tears flooded her eyes instantly, spilling down her temples into her hair.
"Eli," she whispered, like a prayer that had almost failed.
She tried to sit up and winced sharply, pain flashing across her face. Marcus moved then, pressing the call button, steadying the bed with one hand. "Don't," he said gently. "You're hurt." Her fingers clenched in the sheets. "Did he?" "No," Marcus said. "He didn't touch him." Her shoulders collapsed inward, a sob tearing free before she could stop it. She covered her face with trembling hands, and Marcus turned slightly, giving her privacy without leaving. "I tried," she whispered through her fingers. "I tried so hard." "I know," Marcus said. She lowered her hands slowly, eyes red, searching his face like she was bracing for judgment. "You found the apartment," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." Her mouth twisted in shame. "It's bad." "It was protected," Marcus replied, "by someone doing their best with nothing." She stared at him, startled. "You know my name," she said suddenly. "I know that now. I heard the nurse say it." Marcus nodded once. Her fingers tightened again. "I never meant to involve you." "And yet," Marcus said softly, "you taught your son how to call me." She swallowed hard. "I didn't know what else to do." Silence stretched, thick but not cruel. Finally she spoke. "His name is Daniel," she said. "Eli's father." Marcus didn't react. He already knew. "He was charming," she continued, voice flat now, like she'd told this story to herself too many times. "Everyone loved him, especially the men who could help him, especially the ones who didn't ask questions." Marcus's eyes sharpened. "He doesn't hit in public," she said. "Only where it won't show, only when no one's watching, only when he's sure I won't talk." "Why didn't you go to the police?" Marcus asked. She laughed once. It was brittle and humorless. "I did," she said. "Twice. They wrote reports. He cried, promised, left town, came back. He always came back." Her gaze dropped to her hands. "And when he found out I was pregnant," she went on, "he said if I ever left him, he'd take Eli. That no court would believe a woman like me, that he'd ruin me before he let me disappear." Marcus felt something cold and sharp settle behind his ribs.
"So you hid?"
he said. She nodded. "I learned to be quiet," she whispered. "To make myself small. To make the house look worse than it was, so he wouldn't stay long. To teach Eli how to lock doors, how to climb out windows, how to listen for footsteps." Her voice broke. "I didn't ask for help because every time I did, it made him worse." Marcus stepped closer now, just enough that she could see his face clearly. "Why me?" he asked. She looked up at him, eyes steady despite the tears. "Because he's afraid of you," she said simply. "Because your name is the only one I ever heard him say carefully." Marcus absorbed that in silence. "I didn't want you to come," she added. "I wanted you to answer. To know that if I couldn't protect my son anymore, someone else would." Her breath shook. "I never thought I'd wake up." Marcus held her gaze. "You did," he said. "And he won't come back." She searched his eyes, seeing something there she hadn't expected. Certainty. For the first time in years, she let herself believe it. "Thank you," she whispered, "for answering the phone." Marcus looked toward the door, where guards stood quietly, invisible unless you knew how to look. "Thank your son," he said. "He was brave when it mattered." She closed her eyes, tears sliding free. And in that bright, sterile hospital room, a woman who had spent years hiding from a man finally understood the truth. She hadn't been protecting her child from the world. She had been waiting for the right part of it to answer back. Night settled over the city like a held breath. Marcus stood alone in his office, the lights dimmed, the skyline burning beyond the glass. From this height, the city looked orderly, predictable. Streets like veins, lives like numbers. It was a lie he'd learned to live with. His phone rested on the desk, screen dark, silent for the first time since dawn. Eli was asleep. His mother, Anna, he finally had her name, was stable. Guarded, watched, protected, in the most literal sense of the word. But protection was not peace. Marcus loosened his tie and set it aside, fingers pressing briefly into his eyes. He had faced wars, betrayals, negotiations where a single wrong word meant blood. None of those choices felt like this. Because this one didn't belong to him alone. 2 folders lay open on the desk. The first was clean, legal, quiet. Restraining orders filed under multiple jurisdictions. Emergency custody protections. Financial pressure applied in places that would hurt but not provoke. Daniel would find doors closing, jobs disappearing, friends suddenly busy. He would feel watched without ever seeing who was watching. A slow suffocation. The kind of solution that let the world keep turning and allowed Marcus to walk away afterward. The second folder was thinner and heavier. No paperwork, no courts, no timelines. Just a name, a location history, and a list of habits that told Marcus exactly where Daniel would be in 3 nights' time, who he drank with, which back rooms he felt safest in, which parts of the city no one would hear screams from. Marcus closed the first folder. Then he didn't open the second. Not yet. Power was easy. He had been born into it, molded by it, sharpened until it fit his hand like a weapon. He could end Daniel's ability to hurt anyone, ever again before sunrise. But protection, real protection, changed things. It wrote a line you couldn't step back over. If he chose the second path, Anna and Eli would never go back to normal. They would be tied to him, to his world, to the gravity that followed his name. There would be no illusion of anonymity, no quiet life untouched by shadow. Safety would be permanent. So would the cost. A knock came at the door. "Come in," Marcus said. Victor stepped inside, his brother's expression hard, familiar, carved from the same stone. He didn't ask permission to sit. "You found him," Victor said. "Yes. And?" Marcus looked back out at the city. "He hasn't realized yet." Victor nodded.
They never do.
Silence stretched. You're hesitating, Victor observed. Marcus didn't deny it. She wants her son safe, Marcus said. Not hidden. Not raised looking over his shoulder. Victor leaned forward. And what do you want? The question landed heavier than it should have. Marcus thought of Eli's voice, of the way he whispered so the world wouldn't hear his fear, of a child who knew how to barricade doors and escape through windows before he knew how to read properly. I want him to sleep, Marcus said quietly, without learning how to listen for footsteps. Victor exhaled slowly. Then you already know. Marcus turned back to the desk. The clean folder stayed closed. He picked up his phone. One message. Encrypted. Brief. It's time. The reply came almost instantly. Understood. Marcus set the phone down and felt something settle into place. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Resolve. This wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be cruel. It would be final. He would not drag Daniel through streets or leave bodies as warnings. That kind of power belonged to men who needed to be feared. Marcus didn't. Daniel would disappear from Anna's life the way safety often did, without ceremony, without explanation. One day present, the next simply gone. No phone calls, no threats, no returns. Normal life would still be changed, but fear would not be the price of peace. Marcus reached for the window blinds and lowered them halfway, cutting the city into shadows and light. Power could destroy. Protection had to endure. And as the city continued on, unaware of the choice being made in a quiet office above it, Marcus Leone accepted the truth he could no longer avoid. There was no going back to normal. Not for the boy, not for the mother, and not for him. Eli didn't flinch when the door opened. That was the first thing Marcus noticed. Most children did, at sudden movement, at unfamiliar footsteps, at the sound of authority entering a room. They startled, shrank back, searched faces for permission to breathe.
Eli just looked up.
He was sitting cross-legged on the floor of a quiet room that wasn't his, coloring carefully inside the lines of a picture that looked like a house with a crooked chimney. A security guard stood discreetly by the window, pretending to examine the view. Another sat in the hall, close enough to hear, far enough to give space. When Marcus stepped in, Eli lifted his head, dark eyes steady. "Oh," he said. "You're here." Marcus paused. "Yes," he replied. "I am." Eli nodded as if this had been the correct answer all along, then went back to his drawing. Marcus closed the door softly behind him. "You don't seem surprised," Marcus said. Eli shrugged. "Mommy said you keep your promises." That landed harder than any accusation ever had. Marcus moved closer and lowered himself into the chair across from him. Not looming, not towering, just present.
"What are you drawing?" he asked.
"Our new house," Eli said. "The one that's quiet in a good way." Marcus studied the picture. Thick walls, a door with a handle drawn extra large, windows with curtains pulled open, not shut tight. "No monsters?" Marcus asked. Eli shook his head. "They don't come where you are." The words were simple. The truth inside them was not. "Are you scared right now?" Marcus asked gently. Eli considered this carefully, crayon hovering in the air. "No," he said finally. "Not right now." "What about earlier?" "Yes," Eli admitted. "But that was before." "Before you answered." Marcus didn't say it. Eli did. "You came when Mommy was sleeping too long," Eli said quietly. "You didn't get mad. You didn't hang up." Marcus's throat tightened. "That's what grown-ups are supposed to do," he said. Eli looked at him, serious. "Most don't." Silence settled between them, not awkward, not heavy, just real. "Do you know what's happening now?" Marcus asked. "Mommy is getting better," Eli said. "The bad man isn't coming back." Marcus watched him closely. "And how do you feel about that?" Eli's grip tightened on the crayon. I don't like when people disappear, he said. But I like when yelling disappears. Marcus nodded once. That makes sense. Footsteps sounded in the hall, voices low, movement just outside the door. Eli didn't flinch. Instead, he slid off the floor and walked toward Marcus, holding up his drawing. Can you keep this? He asked. Marcus took the paper carefully like it mattered. Because it did. I can, he said. Eli hesitated, then did something unexpected. He reached out and took Marcus's hand. Small fingers, warm, steady, no shaking. Marcus froze for half a second, then let himself stay still. You don't feel scary, Eli said matter-of-factly. People say you are, but they're wrong. Marcus swallowed. What do I feel like? He asked. Eli thought hard. Like a door that opens. Something in Marcus's chest gave way. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough. A guard knocked softly and opened the door. Sir, there's movement. He's close. Marcus nodded once. Stay here, he said to Eli. Eli tightened his grip. You're not leaving? I'll be right outside, Marcus said. I promise. Eli searched his face, then nodded. Okay, he said. I'll wait. Marcus stood and walked to the door, then stopped. Eli, he said, turning back. Yes? You did everything right, Marcus said. You always have. Eli smiled, small, certain. I know. As Marcus stepped into the hallway, the weight of the moment followed him, because danger was closing in, and the child at the center of it didn't flinch. Not because he was fearless, but because, for the first time in his life, someone had shown up. The city didn't notice when it happened. That was the strangest part. Traffic still snarled at intersections. Coffee shops still opened their doors. Sirens still wailed for reasons that had nothing to do with him. From the outside, everything looked exactly the same, but underneath it, something went quiet. Marcus felt it first. It happened in the early hours before dawn, when the city usually whispered its secrets loudest. His phone stopped vibrating. The low-level alerts that never truly slept went still. Messages that should have come didn't. Names that usually lingered on the edges of reports vanished entirely. Silence, when you knew how to listen, was never accidental. He stood by the window of his office, watching the city glow beneath him, and waited. The first confirmation came just after sunrise. Victor didn't knock when he entered. He never did when something mattered. It's done, his brother said simply. Marcus didn't turn around. Define done. Victor exhaled slowly. Daniel Reyes won't be making any more appearances. Anywhere. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. And the noise? Gone, Victor said. Threats withdrawn. Complaints rescinded. People who used to talk suddenly can't remember why they cared. Marcus nodded once. But that's not all, Victor continued. Something else came up. That got Marcus's attention. He turned. Victor placed a thin file on the desk. Older than the rest. Paper, not digital. The kind of thing that survived only because someone once decided that it should be forgotten instead of destroyed. A woman, Victor said. 10 years ago. Different part of the city. Same man. Marcus opened the file slowly. Photos, statements. A police report that ended abruptly. Cause listed as accidental. Internal injuries. No charges. She tried to leave, Victor said quietly. Sound familiar? Marcus's jaw tightened. She had a kid too, Victor added. Not Eli. Another one. Younger. The case went quiet because witnesses changed their stories. Marcus's voice was low. Why didn't this surface before? Victor shrugged. It did. It just never stayed up long enough to matter. Marcus stared down at the file. The call hadn't just saved one child. It had pulled a thread. And the city, once tugged in the right place, had begun to unravel its own lies. By midday, the effects rippled outward. A clerk at the courthouse misplaced a motion that would have challenged custody. A landlord remembered an unpaid debt that suddenly mattered. A former associate decided it was a good day to leave town quietly. No violence, no headlines, just absence. At the hospital, Anna noticed it too, though she didn't have words for it. The nurse came in smiling, lighter somehow. "Your son's father won't be listed as emergency contact anymore," she said. "Administration fixed it." Anna blinked. "I didn't ask for that." The nurse hesitated. "It was recommended." Later, a social worker arrived with an updated file, eyes wide, voice cautious. "There were previous reports," she said. "We're reopening them." Anna's hands trembled. "Will he—" "No," the woman said gently. "He won't." That afternoon, Marcus sat in the quiet room where Eli colored, the boy humming softly to himself. "Why is it so quiet today?" Eli asked, not looking up. Marcus considered the question. "Sometimes," he said, "quiet means something loud finally stopped." Eli nodded, as if that made perfect sense. "Good," he said. "I like this kind." By evening, the city had fully absorbed the change. No one announced it. No one explained it. But the system, the one that let men like Daniel slip through cracks, had flinched. Just once, enough to expose the rot beneath. A single call at dawn had done that. Not because of power, because someone listened. Marcus stood alone later that night, city lights reflecting in the glass, the file closed and locked away. Justice hadn't marched in wearing a badge or carrying a warrant. It had arrived quietly, like a whisper, like a child who borrowed a phone and said he was scared. And for the first time in a very long while, the city listened back. The house had learned how to breathe. That was the first thing Marcus noticed when he stepped inside months later. Not the new paint, not the security that no longer felt like a cage, not even the silence that had once been fragile and now felt earned. It was the rhythm, a soft hum from the kitchen, the muted thud of small feet racing down a hallway. Laughter, real laughter, spilling out without being cut short or swallowed. Marcus paused just inside the doorway, something unfamiliar settling in his chest. "Peace!" Eli burst around the corner and skidded to a stop when he saw him. "You're late," the boy announced. Marcus lifted a brow. "I'm exactly on time." Eli crossed his arms, pretending to scowl, but his eyes gave him away. "Mommy said you were coming before dinner." Marcus glanced toward the kitchen, where Anna stood stirring a pot, sleeves rolled up, hair pulled back in a way that spoke of comfort, not fear. She looked healthier, stronger, like someone who had finally stopped bracing for impact. "He's right," she said gently, "but we saved you a plate." Marcus nodded once, then crouched down to Eli's level. "What's wrong?" he asked. "You don't usually ambush guests." Eli hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He handed it over solemnly. Marcus opened it. A drawing. 3 figures again. 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 small. This time the house had a sun above it. Windows wide open. A door with no chair jammed beneath the handle. Underneath, in careful, improving handwriting, were the words, "If you're tired, it's okay. I can wake you." Marcus swallowed. "I wanted to ask you something," Eli said. "Okay." The boy rocked on his heels. No fear, no whispering. "Do you still not like being woken up?" Marcus considered that. He thought of the man he'd been, the rules, the distance, the sleep that had never really been rest. "No," he said finally. "Not like I used to." Eli nodded, satisfied. Then he asked casually, like it wasn't the most important thing in the world, "If I get scared again, can I wake you next time?" The room went quiet. Not the bad kind, the kind that waits. Marcus didn't answer right away. He reached out and rested his hand on the boy's shoulder, grounding them both. "Yes," he said. "Any time." Eli smiled, wide, certain. Good, he said. Because I don't get scared much anymore. Marcus stood slowly, feeling the weight of the moment settle into something solid. Anna watched them from the kitchen, eyes bright. Dinner's ready, she said. Stay? Marcus met her gaze. The unspoken question passed between them. This isn't temporary anymore. Yes, he said. I'll stay. They ate together. Nothing fancy. Pasta, bread, laughter when Eli spilled water and tried to blame gravity. A normal night built from extraordinary beginnings. Later, as the house quieted into evening, Marcus stood at the door preparing to leave. Eli hugged him without warning. Thank you for answering, the boy said into his coat. Marcus rested his hand on the back of Eli's head. Thank you for calling, he replied. As Marcus stepped out into the night, he didn't feel the old pull toward distance. Some rules were meant to be broken. Some calls were meant to be answered. And some voices, soft, brave, trusting, changed everything forever.